even this. So Hunter Biden filmed himself smoking crack behind the wheel, driving at 172 miles per hour on his way to Vegas. What a winner this guy is. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Now let's smoke some more crack. This is from the New York Post. This is from last year. And here is Joe Biden back in 1994. So remember that Joe Biden is the deviant mastermind that came up with the criminalization of the horrendous crime bill of 1994. That he was going to penalize people that were on crack. He was going to penalize people that were on illegal narcotics and punish them with huge amounts of jail sentences. And that's what caused this mass incarceration. But notice how, and this was put together by Kanoka the Great, put this little presentation together to show how what he says here to the general public, how he's going to crack down on the drug epidemic that causes mass incarceration, did not include his son Hunter whatsoever, and shows the complete hypocrisy and double standard that the Biden family has used and pressured their leverage to master control over everybody else. Listen to this.
Piece of crack cocaine, no bigger than this quarter that I'm holding in my hand, $1/4 of $1. We passed a law through the leadership of Senator Thurmond and myself and others, a law that says if you're caught with that, you go to jail for 5 years. You get no probation. You get nothing other than 5 years in jail. Judge doesn't have a choice. Under our forfeiture statutes, the government can take everything you own. Everything from your car to your house, your bank account, not merely what they confiscate in terms of the dollars from the transaction that you've just got caught engaging in. They can take everything.
So under Joe Biden's measures, as he's talking about here, Hunter Biden would be definitely accused of this. He would have no house, he'd be behind a jail cell, and he definitely wouldn't be partying with a bunch of hookers. As Joe Biden was the chief architect of the 1994 crime bill that mass incarcerated majority black and brown people across America. As he was the defiant voice on the war on drugs. Remember he said he didn't want to be raised in a racial jungle. He didn't want his kids to be upholden to the evil psychoticness of these drug lords. How Hillary Clinton, we got tracked down on super predators that are infesting our streets. And they let Hunter Biden get away with all this. Which shows exactly the huge double standard that these politicians put themselves on. It's rules for thee, but not for me. So here's more of this.
I don't care why they become a sociopath. We have an obligation to cordon them off from the rest of society. They are in jail. Away from my mother, your husband, our families. So I don't want to ask what made them do this. They must be taken off the street.
And that is the man that Joe Biden just pardoned. That is a man that they just pardoned. That it was just fatherly wisdom. It was fatherly wisdom. That my son, the crack addict, that I imposed a bill to crack down on, I let him go free. I let him go free because he was struggling. He was struggling. And Joe Biden and Jill Biden have always talked about how their son is, this struggling individual. He was a struggling individual. He went to rehab. He got himself better. He's just a struggling individual. Did they ever talk about any of that when it comes to the war on drugs? Do they ever look at people abusing substances as people with medical problems? Do they look at this as a troubled person? No, they look at it as a criminal offense. Which is why the war on drugs was to penalize poor people. That whole purpose, that whole progression, the mass incarceration of people on these substances was purposely done as mass control on poverty-stricken populations. That's why they went after black and brown neighborhoods, because they were in poor neighborhoods at the time. Because if it was a Wall Street executive, it was if it was a celebrity, if it was anyone white collar or any higher institution, they just send them to rehab. They say, oh, how troublesome, how difficult it is for them. It's a difficult path. That's why they went to rehab. That's why they had to fix themselves up. It's a concerning condition. Addiction is concerning. Oh, it's concerning for them, but for everybody else, it's a criminal offense. Considering this is coming from the deviant mastermind that imposed harsh penalties for possession. Just possession. They didn't even go after the drug lords themselves. They're not going after the cartels. They're not going after the people that are supplying and throwing it out to the general public, because then they would have to investigate, the CIA that's been doing it for years. Then posed all these drugs into America to, again, make population control. So, amazing. The guy that they just pardoned, Joe Biden just pardoned for a decade-long crime spree involving Ukraine, China, business practices, drugs, guns, tax affairs, and filming himself smoking crack behind the wheel just last year. They let him go free. At least Donald Trump. And you can say what you want about Donald Trump. I've said what I want about Donald Trump. There's a lot of things I don't personally agree with him on. But at least for Donald Trump's sake, and I give credit to this, he is the only person I've ever seen so far willing to do the First Step Act, which actually got more people out of prison, which got more people in possession who are nonviolent drug offenses, a chance at life. Joe Biden did not do that. Joe Biden wants you to mass incarcerate. Kamala Harris wants mass incarceration. Every other Democrat wants mass incarceration. Republicans want mass incarceration. No, it doesn't. Donald Trump. Out of all these people. And they consider him the biggest burden to America. They consider him a criminal. Donald Trump. But they let this guy go free. They let Hunter Biden go free. They let Joe Biden off the hook. Joe Biden's bringing the soul back to America. And if you have a hard time figuring out if you're going to vote for me or Donald Trump, then you ain't black. The famous words of a convict. Because Joe Biden should be convicted. His entire family should be convicted. There should be investigations every single night on just how horrific this family is. Because this is just tipping the iceberg. We have a lot more in store in this. Just tip of the iceberg on how sickening, disgusting, sinister this family dynasty really is. The Biden family are not to be trusted whatsoever.